So I wanted to talk about ex-vegans with you. This is kind of a bit relaxed. I've got my pajamas on and a cup of tea, so it should be really cool. Um, anyway, I think one of the issues with ex-vegans is a lot of them go into veganism, or one of the main driving forces into veganism is actually health. Um, and I think this is problematic because really when you see veganism as a way to lose weight or as a way to get healthy, um, it's not necessarily the only diet that you can get healthy on. It's not the only diet that you can get all the nutrients you need on. And I just think you're putting too much pressure on veganism to make you lose as much weight as you want or make you be as skinny as you want. And really, when you see veganism as more than yourself, when you see it as for the animals or for the environment, or you see it as a concept bigger than yourself, it's much more easy to stay vegan. It's much more easy not to eat that piece of cake that your friend's giving you, because one piece of cake isn't going to affect your health, but one piece of cake is going to harm animals. And in my personal experience, all of the vegans who've stayed vegan a very long time, for years, like my uncle's been vegan for 20 years, it's for the animals, or it's for the planet. And I've had my auntie and another uncle of mine go vegan for a very short period of time, for health reasons. And they've just not stayed vegan because they haven't got the results they wanted from the diet. And yeah, it's quite sad, really, I think. The second issue I have with a lot of these ex-vegans is the fact that they go on very, very, very restrictive vegan diets. I mean, I kind of want to separate Tim Sheaf out from the rest because I have a bit more of personal experience in what Tim went through. I actually have been on a 3-week water fast, so I kind of understand a bit how he's feeling. So, on my 3-week water fast, I was actually vegan at the time, and I had the worst cravings for meat that I've ever had in my entire life. It wasn't like, because I know people say, oh, I get cravings for pizza or I get cravings for, hot dog or something. It's not like that. It's like this, it's almost like an innate feeling. It's like, I need meat. I need something. And I think it's because you're essentially starving yourself, and when you're starving yourself, you want something high in calories and high in fat and high in protein. And I think it's a very natural instinct to gravitate towards meat because our ancestors, when they were starving, I think meat was one of the first high calorie, high protein, high fat foods that we could get our hands on. And so I think that someone who is much less logical than I am, who uses these kind of gut feelings and these innate feelings as opposed to their logic, they would actually go back to eating meat. Whereas with me, I kind of thought logically, I'm not eating enough, I better start eating normally again. And I started eating normally, and I'll get into this bit now. Basically, he kind of said that he felt weak, he felt tired all the time, and he had digestive issues. Now, I pretty much agree with that. When I come out of the fast, essentially I felt weak all the time. I felt tired, and my body just wasn't as good as it used to be. I mean, Tim, I don't think he looked very well after his fast. His skin was very pale, he had very hollow eyes, he lost muscle mass and weight, and I just think that he lost an unnecessary amount, I think. It wasn't, I don't think he needed to lose that weight, and I think that he needs to accept that it's going to take him a while to get back to the point that he was before he fasted. It took me probably about a year to get back to where I was before the fast. Um, in terms of energy, in terms of my body being as good as it used to be. So yeah. The second thing I'm going to get into is the other kind of vegan YouTubers. Now, I find the other vegan YouTubers, they're on very, very restrictive vegan diets. They're on things like Raw Till 4, raw vegan diets, low fat, high carb. And I think when you're on these more restrictive vegan diets, it's a lot harder to get all the nutrients you need. Now, with things like soya milk and soya yogurt, they're very, very good sources of B12 and vitamin D. And I don't really understand why you would avoid those products at all. If you avoid those products, you're just making it harder for yourself to get B12 and vitamin D. The second thing I would say, and I think this is probably the hardest thing about being vegan, is the social impact. It's much harder to socialise and, go to meals out with your family and go around your family's house if you're vegan. Now, adding extra restrictions onto that, like, oh, I'm a high carb, low fat vegan, or I'm a raw vegan, or I'm this and I'm that, it's a lot harder to actually integrate with your family, and it's a lot harder for them to cook for you. And I think that a diet should be something that you're able to be with your family and you're able to go out for a meal with your family. You should be able to do all sorts of things with your diet. You should be able to go for a meal over your family's house with your diet. You should be able to go to a restaurant with your diet. You should be able to eat a nice dessert with your diet. And I think adding these extra restrictions, it's just going to make you, if you're not allowed to eat vegan cake, it's just going to make you crave a cake with eggs in it. And yeah, I think it's a bit silly, to be honest. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and please subscribe and like this video, and check out my ebook in the link in the description.